Every single regret you have, every disastrous argument, every missed opportunity, started in the fraction of a second you lost control. You reacted. You didn't think. You let your emotions dictate your destiny. You believe this is just who you are. You are wrong. There is a space between the stimulus and your response. For most, that space is a chaotic void. For the masters of their own lives, it is a weapon. This audiobook will teach you to own that space, to control it. It is called the 3-second rule, and it will separate you from the person you are now to the powerful, calculated person you were always meant to be. Listen closely. Chapter 1, Your first reaction is a lie. Let's begin with the most important sentence you will ever hear regarding self-control. It is the foundation of everything we will build here. You must accept it as law. Your first reaction is a lie. Write it down. Burn it into your memory. Repeat it until it becomes the automatic background track to your every waking moment. Because every time you have lost your temper, said something you regret, or made a situation worse through pure impulse, it is because you believed that initial, emotional flash. You trusted a liar. And you paid the price. You have been conditioned to believe that your feelings are valid. That your gut reaction is the real you. This is the most dangerous myth you have accepted. Your first reaction is not the real you. It is the oldest, most primitive, most frightened part of you. It is a biological echo from a time when survival depended on instant, thoughtless reaction to the snap of a twig or a shadow in the grass. It is the animal brain. And you are letting an animal run your life. This is not an insult. It is a diagnosis. That part of your brain, the part that floods you with anger, fear, or defensiveness, is a tool that is thousands of years out of date. It was designed for a world of physical threats, of predators, and immediate danger. Today, you live in a world of social threats, of nuanced challenges, of psychological games. Using your primitive survival brain to navigate an office conflict is like using a stone axe to perform surgery. It is clumsy, destructive, and guaranteed to cause more harm than good. It's not about weakness, it's about programming. Your hardware is running ancient software. And you keep letting it run, wondering why your life keeps crashing. You keep believing the pop-up notification that screams, "Danger," when all you received was an email. You keep trusting the alarm bell that was designed to save you from a tiger when your boss simply asks you a question in a certain tone. You have a choice. You can continue to be a slave to this outdated programming for the rest of your life, or you can decide, right now, to take manual control. To become the programmer, not the program. That's the key. Understanding that the system is flawed, and it is your job, and your job alone, to override it. You don't need anyone's permission to do this. This is your mind. It is time you started acting like you own it. Let's make this real. Let's talk about that email. You see it in your inbox. The subject line is blunt. It's from your boss or a senior colleague. You open it. The words are critical. They question your work. They point out a mistake. They demand a change. And instantly, what happens? A hot flash. A tightening in your chest. Your heart rate quickens. A voice in your head screams, "How dare they?" It screams, "They don't see how hard I'm working." It screams, "I have to defend myself, right now." That is the lie. Every single part of it. The feeling of being personally attacked? That's the lie. The urgency to respond immediately? That's the lie. The defensive posture, the anger, the narrative of victimhood you instantly spin in your own head? It is all a complete fabrication by a part of your brain that cannot tell the difference between a critical email and a physical threat. Your first reaction is a lie. And what happens when you believe it? You act on it. You let your fingers fly across the keyboard. You craft a defensive, emotional, justification-filled response. You explain why you were right, why they are wrong. You use passive-aggressive phrases. You hit send to get that fleeting moment of satisfaction. And in that single, reactive moment, you have sabotaged yourself completely. You have marked yourself as unprofessional, as emotional, as someone who cannot handle feedback, as someone who is difficult to manage. You don't see it as self-sabotage. You see it as standing up for yourself. But you are wrong. It's not about being a doormat, it's about being a master. It's about discipline. The undisciplined person reacts. They give their power away to the person who sent the email. They let an external event completely dictate their internal state. You have a choice. You can give them that power, or you can keep it for yourself. The cost of believing the lie is everything. It is the promotion you didn't get because you were seen as reactive. It is the trust you lost with a colleague because you snapped at them. It is the slow, steady erosion of your own professional reputation, email by email, meeting by meeting, reaction by reaction. You are building a prison of your own making, and the bars are forged from your impulses. So, what is the answer? What is the first step out of this prison? It is profoundly simple. You must stop believing the lie. You must build a new habit. The moment you feel that hot flash of emotion, your new, automatic internal command must be, stop. This is not real. That's it. You don't need to feel calm. You don't need to have the perfect answer. You just need to plant one single seed of doubt in the truth of your initial feeling. You must learn to observe your own anger as if it were a storm cloud passing in the sky. You are not the cloud. You are not the storm. You are the sky. The emotion is just an event happening within you. You are not your first reaction. You are the silent, powerful observer that notices the reaction and chooses not to act. That's the key. The separation. The creation of space between you and the impulse. This is the foundation. Without this, nothing else is possible. You cannot control an impulse that you fundamentally believe is you. You must first create the separation. You must see the reaction for what it is, a faulty, primitive, and deeply unreliable signal from an outdated piece of your own biology. Distrust it. Question it. See it as a liar trying to trick you into making a fool of yourself. Because that is exactly what it is. Your first reaction is a lie. Repeat it. Internalize it. Your freedom depends on it. You have now learned to identify the enemy. You understand that the first signal your body sends you in a moment of pressure is fundamentally untrustworthy. But distrust is only the first step. To achieve true mastery, you need a tool. You need a system to manage the critical moments that decide your fate. You need a weapon to control the space between what happens to you and what you do about it. That is what we will build next. In Chapter 2, the 3 seconds between failure and victory. Chapter 2, the 3 seconds between failure and victory. In the last chapter, we established a foundational truth. Your first reaction is a lie. You now know that the initial jolt of emotion you feel is an echo from a primitive past, a faulty signal that cannot be trusted. Knowing the lie is one thing. Defeating it is another. Between the stimulus, the insult, the critical email, the outrageous demand, and your response, there is a space. For most of the world, this space does not exist. It is an instantaneous flash. Stimulus and reaction are welded together. An event happens, and they are immediately its slave. This space, this tiny fraction of a moment, is the entire battlefield. It is where every personal and professional war is won or lost. And you have been losing every single day. Today, that ends. We are going to give you the weapon that allows you to fight on that battlefield. We are going to teach you how to create, control, and dominate that space. This weapon is the 3-second rule. This is not a friendly tip. This is not a helpful suggestion. This is a law. It is an unbreakable, non-negotiable command you will give yourself from this day forward. Here is the rule. The moment a trigger occurs, before you speak a word, before you type a letter, before you move a single muscle in response, you will do the following. 1. You will pause. You will stop everything. 2. You will take one single, deliberate breath. In through your nose, and out through your mouth. 3. You will then, and only then, decide on a calculated response. Pause. Breathe. Respond. This is your new mantra. This is the code that will override your faulty programming. This is the system that separates the amateur from the master. Pause. Breathe. Respond. It must become as automatic as your own heartbeat. It is the simplest, most powerful algorithm for emotional control ever devised. And it is now yours to command. Let us be perfectly clear about what this is, and what it is not. This rule is not about suppressing your emotions. That is a fool's game. The anger is real. The fear is real. The frustration is real. Let it exist. The 3-second rule does not command you to stop feeling. It commands you to stop acting on those feelings thoughtlessly. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being disciplined. You acknowledge the storm, but you refuse to let it pilot the ship. That's the key. Furthermore, this rule is not a sign of weakness. The world of the reactive believes that the fastest response is the strongest. The quick comeback. The immediate rebuttal. They are wrong. That is the mark of a person with no control. A person whose strings are being pulled by anyone and everyone around them. True power is the ability to absorb a hit and not flinch. To receive a trigger and show nothing but calm, deliberate control. You don't need their permission to be poised. You don't need their approval to be disciplined. The pause is not hesitation. It is a declaration of power. Let's put this on the battlefield. The negotiation. Imagine you are in a high-stakes meeting. The air is tense. You have presented your terms. The person across the table looks at you, smirks, and counters with an offer that is not just low, it is insulting. It is a deliberate tactic to throw you off balance, to make you emotional. The primitive brain screams. The lie tells you to scoff, to get angry, to say, that's an insult. The amateur takes the bait. They react. You can't be serious, they blurt out. Their voice cracks with emotion. And just like that, they have lost everything. They have shown their cards. They have revealed that they are emotionally invested and easily rattled. They have handed all of their power to the person across the table. Now, watch the master. The same insulting offer is made. The trigger is fired. The master feels the exact same internal jolt of anger. But on the outside? Nothing. They pause. They hold unwavering eye contact. They take one slow, deliberate breath. The silence in the room becomes a weapon. It is now on the other person to justify their absurd position. The master has created a vacuum of power, and the other person, uncomfortable with the silence, will rush to fill it, often by talking too much and revealing their weakness. After 3 seconds, the master responds. Their voice is flat, calm, and devoid of emotion. Let's set that number aside for a moment, they might say, and return to the value we are actually discussing here. They have not reacted. They have responded. They have controlled the space. They have won the engagement without ever raising their voice. This is the power you are learning to wield. The 3 seconds are where the victory is decided. It's not about the clever words you say. It is about the deliberate silence you command before you say them. That is the moment of transformation. In that space, you have a choice. You can be a puppet, or you can be the master. You must become obsessed with this space. See it everywhere. The driver who cuts you off in traffic, there is a space. A family member who makes a passive-aggressive comment, there is a space. An unexpected problem that threatens to derail your day, there is a space. In every one of these moments, you have been collapsing that space to zero and reacting instantly. From now on, your single most important job is to insert the rule. Control the space. Every time you do it, you are forging a new pathway in your brain. You are weakening the primitive, reactive circuit and building a new one, the pathway of discipline, poise, and power. It will be difficult at first. Your old programming will fight you. But you will keep doing it. You will practice on the small things so you are ready for the big things. Control the space. This is the fundamental skill. It is the atomic unit of all self-control. Pause. Breathe. Respond. This is your new reality. You are no longer a person who reacts. You are a person who responds. You now have the what, the 3-second rule. And you have the how, pause. Breathe. Respond. But to truly become a master of this, to make it an unbreakable part of your character, you must understand the enemy within. You must understand the mechanics of the trap itself. Why does your brain betray you so easily? What is the trigger, and how does it hijack your mind? We must now dissect the machine. We must understand the anatomy of your own self-sabotage, so you can dismantle it piece by piece. That is our mission in Chapter 3, Anatomy of a Trigger, Why Your Brain Betrays You. Chapter 3, Anatomy of a Trigger, Why Your Brain Betrays You. You have the rule. Pause. Breathe. Respond. This is the tool. But to use a tool to its maximum effect, you must understand the material you are working on. And that material is the 3 pounds of wiring between your ears. You need to understand the machine you are trying to fix. Let's be direct. Your brain is not on your side. It is not designed to make you happy, successful, or composed in a modern world. It is a survival machine. It is an ancient piece of hardware designed with one purpose, to keep you alive in an environment of constant physical threat. And in its desperate attempt to keep you safe, it will betray your best intentions at every turn. This is not a personal failing. This is a biological fact. Your brain is rigged to react foolishly under pressure. It is designed to choose speed over accuracy. It is built to hijack your own intelligence. And until you understand the anatomy of this hijack, you will remain its victim. Inside your mind, you have 2 key players. Think of them as the commander and the guard. The commander is your prefrontal cortex. This is the seat of logic, reason, and strategic thought. It is the intelligent, rational part of you. The guard is your amygdala. It is the primitive alarm system. It is fast, twitchy, and constantly scanning for danger. In a functional system, the guard spots a potential threat and sends a report to the commander. The commander calmly assesses the report and decides on a logical course of action. But the system is not functional. The system is flawed. When a trigger happens, an insult, a threat, a shocking event, the guard does not send a report. It hits the panic button. It completely bypasses the commander and floods your system with fight-or-flight chemicals. It hijacks your body. Your heart pounds. Your breathing becomes shallow. Your blood runs cold. The commander, the rational you, is knocked completely offline. You are no longer piloting your own body. The guard, the panicked, primitive animal, is in full control. This is the emotional hijack. It's not about being a weak person, it's about having a biological security system that is overly sensitive and outdated. You are not a bad person for getting angry. You are an untrained operator of a very powerful machine. That's the key. And the first step to becoming a trained operator is to see the hijack for what it is, a predictable, mechanical process. Let's watch this process in real time. The most dangerous battlefield for this hijack is not the boardroom. It is your own home. You come home after a long, exhausting day. Your partner is also tired. The two of you are talking. Then, the trigger comes. It's a simple sentence. Something like, "You always forget to take out the trash." To the commander, this is just data. A simple observation. But the commander never gets the message. The guard hears the words, "you always," and interprets them as a global attack on your character. It doesn't hear a complaint about trash. It hears, "you are incompetent. You are a failure as a partner." Panic button. Hijack engaged. The chemical flood begins. You feel a surge of hot, defensive anger. The lie from Chapter 1 is born, "I'm being attacked. I'm not appreciated." And before your rational mind can even begin to process the situation, the guard has already launched a counterattack. You snap back, "Well, you never remember to pay the credit card bill on time." And there it is. The conflict has escalated. Now your partner is hijacked. Their guard hears an attack. Now you are no longer two loving partners having a conversation. You are two primitive animals in a battle for survival, slinging verbal spears at each other. 10 minutes later, you are in a full-blown argument, saying things you don't mean, causing damage that can take days to repair. An hour later, the chemicals finally recede. The commander comes back online. And you are left in the wreckage, filled with regret, wondering how it all happened so fast. It happened because you let a biological process run unchecked. You have a choice. You always have a choice. Now, let's replay that exact same scene, but with a trained operator. The trigger is the same. You always forget to take out the trash. The internal alarm bells ring just as loudly. The guard screams. The chemical jolt is identical. But this time, you have installed a new program. This time, you have the 3-second rule. You feel the anger, but you do nothing. You hear the lie, but you do not act on it. Instead, you pause. You breathe. That 3-second pause is a manual override. It is a circuit breaker. It is you, the operator, deliberately cutting power to the hijack system. It starves the guard of the one thing it needs to survive, immediate, thoughtless action. In that 3-second gap, you give your commander just enough time to get back online. The commander assesses the data and understands the reality. My partner is tired. This isn't an attack. It's a minor issue. After 3 seconds, the commander responds. Not the guard. You look at your partner and say, "You're right. I'm sorry. I'll go do it now." The war is over before the first shot was even fired. That is the power of interrupting the circuit. You must stop seeing your brain as you. It is not. It is a tool. It is a powerful, complex, and deeply flawed tool that you have been given. And for your entire life, you have been letting it run on its dangerous, factory default settings. It is time to access the control panel. Your brain is a tool, not your master. This must become your guiding principle. The feelings of anger, fear, and anxiety are simply automated alerts from the machine. You, the operator, have the authority to see those alerts, acknowledge them, and then dismiss them as irrelevant to the task at hand. You don't need its permission to stay calm. See the hijack for the biological noise that it is. See your emotional reactions as the predictable, mechanical death throes of an old system. You are installing a new one. The 3-second rule is the software update that puts the commander, the real you, back in charge. You now understand the enemy within. It is not some mysterious dark side of your personality. It is a simple, predictable, biological circuit. And a circuit that can be understood can be controlled. It can even be used. Now that you know how to defend against the hijack, it is time to go on the offensive. It is time to learn how the pause is not just a shield, but a weapon. You are about to learn how to turn the silence that once terrified you into your greatest source of power and influence. Our next lesson is in Chapter 4, Weaponize the Pause, How Silence Becomes Power. Chapter 4, Weaponize the Pause, How Silence Becomes Power. You have been taught that silence is empty, that it is awkward, that it is a void to be filled with noise as quickly as possible. This, like your first reaction, is a lie. Silence is not empty. It is a container for power. Up to this point, we have treated the 3-second rule as a shield. It is your defense against the emotional hijack. It is the wall you build between a trigger and a foolish reaction. This is its first, most crucial function. But now, it is time to go on the offensive. It is time to transform your shield into a weapon. You are about to learn that the deliberate pause, the controlled silence, is one of the most potent tools of influence you will ever possess. In any interaction, the person who is most comfortable with silence is the person in control. Always. The game is not about who can talk the fastest or the loudest. The game is about who can endure the quiet. And you are going to learn how to win. Human beings are terrified of conversational voids. A gap in the dialogue creates a psychological tension. It feels unresolved. This tension makes people anxious, and anxious people have a desperate, primal urge to talk. They rush to fill the void you create. And when they rush, they make mistakes. They reveal information. They soften their stance. They expose their true intentions. This is not a theory. This is a law of social physics. He who controls the silence, controls the conversation. Your entire life, you have been the one rushing to fill the void. You have been the one relieving the tension for others, giving away your power for free because you were uncomfortable. It's not about being rude, it's about being disciplined. It's about understanding that your comfort with silence is a direct measure of your personal power. You have a choice. You can be the one who nervously fills the space, or you can be the one who owns it. Let's take this weapon into a real-world scenario. The sales meeting. You are presenting your product or service. You reach the most critical point, the price. You state the number, clearly and confidently. The client on the other side of the table immediately puts up a wall. That's far too expensive, they say, leaning back with their arms crossed. There's no way we can make that work. The trigger is fired. The hijack begins. The untrained person panics. Their mind screams, I'm losing the deal. I have to justify the cost. I need to prove our value. And so they talk. They rush to fill the silence the client just created. They start stumbling over themselves, listing features, talking about ROI, desperately trying to convince the client they are wrong. They are now defensive. They are low status. They have lost complete control. Now, watch the master. The same trigger is fired. The client says, that's far too expensive. There's no way we can make that work. The master feels the same internal jolt of panic. But they do nothing. They deploy the rule. They pause. They hold calm, unwavering eye contact. They might nod slowly, as if considering the statement. They say absolutely nothing for 3 full seconds. To the client, who is expecting a defensive reaction, these 3 seconds feel like an eternity. The client's mind begins to race. Did I offend them? Was that too blunt? Maybe I should clarify. The tension of the silence becomes unbearable for them. And so, they break. They feel compelled to fill the void that the master has created. And they say the second sentence. The sentence that contains the truth. They say, there's no way we can make that work with our current quarterly budget, or, it's more expensive than the quote we got from your competitor. There it is. That's the key. The first statement was a smokescreen. The second statement, the one born from the discomfort of your silence, is the real objection. Now you are no longer fighting a ghost. You have a real target. You can address the budget cycle. You can address a competitor's quote. You won the engagement not by what you said, but by what you refused to say. Let them break the silence. You own it. This is a weapon you can use in every area of your life. When a colleague asks you a difficult, pointed question in a meeting, do not rush to answer. Pause. Breathe. Let the weight of your silence command the room's attention before you even speak. When a loved one makes a passive-aggressive comment, do not take the bait. Pause. Hold eye contact. Let them sit with the awkwardness of what they just said. Often, they will backtrack and clarify without you having to do anything at all. Let them break the silence. You own it. You must stop seeing it as your job to make every conversation comfortable. It is not. Your job is to be effective. Your job is to maintain control of yourself. You don't need their permission to take a moment before you speak. That is your right. Use it. The transformation here is profound. Your old goal was to win arguments with clever words. Your new goal is to win engagements with controlled silence. Your new mandate is to talk less and learn more. See every conversation as a strategic game. The person who is talking is giving away information. The person who is listening and comfortable in the quiet is receiving it. You have a choice about which person you want to be. Let them break the silence. You own it. This is the mantra of the powerful communicator. It is the discipline of the master negotiator. It is the sign of a person who is completely in command of themselves and their environment. You now understand how to use the pause as both a shield and a weapon. You know how to defend your mind from the hijack, and you know how to use silence to control your external world. But there is a condition. To project this unshakable calm on the outside, you must first cultivate it on the inside. You cannot fake this. If you are a raging storm on the inside, no amount of silence can hide it. To truly weaponize the pause, you must first learn to detach from the internal storm itself. You must learn to separate who you are from the feelings that pass through you. That is the next level of this work. In Chapter 5, You Are Not Your Feelings, Detaching from the Storm. Chapter 5, You Are Not Your Feelings, Detaching from the Storm. We must now address the most fundamental lie you have ever been told about yourself. It is a lie you repeat to yourself every single day, in 100 different ways. It is the invisible engine behind all of your emotional suffering. The lie is this: you believe you are your feelings. When anger surges through you, you say, I am angry. When fear grips you, you say, I am afraid. When sadness washes over you, you say, I am sad. You fuse your identity, the very essence of who you are, with a temporary, passing, chemical event in your brain. And in doing so, you hand over complete control. If you are the anger, then the anger is in charge. You have no choice but to obey its commands. This is the source of your powerlessness. This is why the emotional hijack is so effective. It doesn't just take over your body, it takes over your identity. Today, we sever that connection. Today, you learn the truth. You are not your feelings. You are the silent, constant witness to them. Think of it this way. You are the sky. Your feelings, anger, joy, fear, anxiety, are the weather. The weather is constantly changing. One moment there are dark, violent storm clouds. The next, there is brilliant sunshine. The clouds are not the sky. The storm is not the sky. The sky is the vast, silent, unchangeable space in which all weather occurs. The sky simply observes the weather as it passes. It is not damaged by the storm. It is not defined by the storm. You are the sky. Your feelings are just the weather. And the 3-second rule is the tool that gives you the altitude to remember this truth in the middle of a hurricane. The psychological error that the undisciplined mind makes is fusion. It collapses the space between the observer and the experience. It's not about being broken, it's about being fused. This fusion is a trap. It gives temporary emotions a false sense of permanence and power. It turns a fleeting feeling into a defining characteristic. This is the root of all self-sabotage. Let's watch this fusion happen in a high-stakes, real-world scenario. Public embarrassment. Imagine you are in a critical meeting. You are presenting your work. In front of your boss, your peers, and your entire team, a senior colleague interrupts you. They publicly point out a significant mistake in your data. They make you look foolish. The trigger is fired. Instantly, the weather changes. A hot, toxic flush of shame washes over you. Your heart hammers in your chest. The undisciplined mind, the fused mind, immediately makes a critical error. Its internal monologue becomes, I am a fool. I am incompetent. I am ashamed. Do you see the trap? The feeling of shame has now become your identity. You have fused with the storm. And because your very identity is now incompetent fool, you act accordingly. You stammer. You get defensive. You might lash out, or you might shrink into a silent, defeated posture. You have let a temporary feeling dictate your permanent reputation. Now, let's replay the scene with a trained operator. Someone who understands that they are the sky. The trigger is the same. The public criticism hits. The internal storm of shame begins to gather with the exact same intensity. But this time, you have the rule. You pause. You breathe. In that 3-second space you have created, you do not try to fight the feeling. You do not try to deny it. You simply change the language you use to describe it. Your new internal monologue is not, I am ashamed. It is, there is a feeling of shame arising. Notice the difference. The body is feeling hot. There is an impulse to get defensive. That subtle shift in language is everything. That's the key. You have moved from being the storm to being the observer of the storm. You have detached. You have created a sliver of space between you and the feeling. The shame is still there, but it no longer owns you. It is just weather. And from this place of detached observation, you can access your commander, your rational mind. From this place of power, you respond to the colleague. Not from the shame, but from the calm center of the sky. You hold eye contact and say, with complete poise, "Thank you for catching that. You're right. I will correct the data and resend it." You have just taken what should have been a moment of humiliation and turned it into a demonstration of indestructible confidence. You have proven that you are unflappable. You have won. This is the discipline you must now cultivate. The discipline of observation. This is a skill, and like any skill, it requires practice. You must start in low-stakes environments. When you are stuck in traffic, instead of saying, "I'm so frustrated," practice saying, "There is a feeling of frustration here." When you are worried about a deadline, instead of, "I'm anxious," practice, "The body is experiencing anxiety." This is not a word game. This is a profound act of reprogramming. You are retraining your brain to see feelings as passing events, not as identity-defining truths. You don't need your feelings' permission to observe them. You, the operator, have the authority. You have a choice in every moment to fuse or to observe. Acknowledge the feeling. Do not become the feeling. This is your new mantra for internal mastery. See the anger, nod to it, and let it pass. See the fear, recognize it, and let it pass. See the shame, observe its texture, and let it pass. They are clouds. You are the sky. Acknowledge the feeling. Do not become the feeling. When you master this internal detachment, the external world loses its power over you. Insults become mere data. Criticism becomes feedback. The chaos of the world can no longer touch the calm, silent center of who you are. This is the foundation of true mental toughness. You have learned to separate your true self from the noise of your emotions. You have built an inner fortress of calm. Now, it is time to take this unflappable presence and project it into the most demanding arena of your modern life. It is time to apply this discipline where the stakes are highest. That is your mission in Chapter 6, The Unflappable Presence, Applying the Rule at Work. Chapter 6, The Unflappable Presence, Applying the Rule at Work. The modern workplace is not a family. It is not your home. It is a psychological battlefield. It is a relentless, high-stakes game of perception, influence, and status. And in this game, the most valuable currency is not your talent, not your work ethic, and not your ideas. It is your emotional stability. The person who can remain calm under fire, the person who cannot be rattled, the person who is the calm center of every storm, that is the person who holds all the power. Everything you have learned so far has been training for this arena. Detaching from the lie. Controlling the space. Observing your feelings. This is where you put that training into practice. This chapter is your tactical playbook for becoming the most powerful, respected, and unflappable presence in any professional setting. The workplace is filled with emotional traps. They are set for you every single day. There is the ambush from a superior who delivers unfair criticism in front of others. There is the slow, grinding frustration of dealing with an incompetent colleague whose failures threaten your own work. And there is the public takedown, where a rival tries to sabotage your idea to advance their own agenda. In every one of these scenarios, the goal of the trigger, whether intentional or not, is to provoke an emotional response. They need you to get angry. They need you to get defensive. They need you to get flustered. Because the moment you become emotional, you have lost. You have proven you are not a leader. You have proven you are not in control. It's not about being a robot, it's about being a professional. It's not about being cold, it's about being in command. Let's deploy our discipline onto the most dangerous of these battlefields. The team meeting. The public takedown. Imagine you have spent weeks developing a new strategy. You have the data. You have the plan. You present it to your team with passion and conviction. The moment you finish, a colleague, perhaps one you compete with, leans back and says, with a dismissive tone, "I don't see it. We tried something just like this a few years ago and it was a complete failure. This is a waste of time." The trigger is fired. The hijack begins. The room goes quiet, and every eye is now on you. The undisciplined person fuses with the feeling. The internal monologue is, "I am being attacked. My work is being disrespected." They get defensive. They get angry. They snap back, "Well, that was before my time, and you're clearly not understanding the key differences here." The conversation is now an argument. The tone is emotional. Even if they win the point, they have lost the room. They have lost their status. Their idea is now tainted with conflict. Now, watch the master. Watch the unflappable presence. The trigger is fired. The internal storm of anger and humiliation begins to form. But the master is the sky, not the weather. They deploy the rule. They pause. They hold eye contact with the person who challenged them. They take one slow, deliberate breath. In these 3 seconds of absolute silence, they telegraph one thing: supreme confidence. They are not rattled. They are not threatened. They are in control. Then, they respond. Not from the guard, but from the commander. First, they disarm. Thank you for bringing that up. That historical context is important. This move is unexpected. It is a display of high status. It shows you are open and in command, not defensive and weak. Then, they pivot to pure, cold logic. The crucial distinction between that project and this proposal lies in 3 data points. And then you lay them out. 1, 2, 3. You have not addressed their tone. You have not addressed their disrespect. You have ignored the emotion entirely and responded only to the logical content of their statement. You have refused to play their game. You have forced them to play yours. That's the key. You have demonstrated to everyone in that room that you cannot be emotionally hijacked. Your authority has just solidified. This is the principle you must apply to every professional challenge. Logic wins when emotion is absent. This is your new playbook. These are your new rules of engagement. When you receive unfair criticism from a superior, pause. Breathe. Respond. Never get defensive. Defensiveness is an admission of weakness. Your only response is to absorb the feedback and pivot to action. Thank you for the feedback. I will make those adjustments, or understood. What is the outcome you would like to see? You don't need their permission to be professional. You have a choice. You can let their poor delivery trigger you, or you can use it as an opportunity to display your unshakable composure. When you are dealing with a frustrating or incompetent colleague, pause. Breathe. Respond. You must not allow their incompetence to infect your emotional state. It's not about being heartless, it's about being effective. Detach. Address the objective problem, never the person. Your language must be cold, precise, and focused only on the required action. The deadline for this was yesterday. What is your concrete plan to get it done by noon today? In every meeting, in every email, in every conversation, your one and only goal is to be the most logical, emotionally stable person in the room. Let others be chaotic. Let them be reactive. Let them be driven by ego and fear. You will be the rock. You will be the calm center. Logic wins when emotion is absent. This must be your guiding philosophy at work. Your composure is your armor. Your discipline is your sword. Your reputation for being unflappable will become your greatest professional asset. It will get you promotions. It will earn you trust. It will make you a leader that people want to follow. You have now learned to forge this unflappable presence in the professional world, an arena governed by logic and status. But this armor, this discipline, will now face its most severe test. We are leaving the boardroom and entering the living room. We are moving from the world of colleagues to the world of loved ones, an arena where logic often fails and emotions run deeper than anywhere else. This is the final boss. This is the ultimate test of your mastery. Our mission now is in Chapter 7, The Indestructible Bond, Applying the Rule in Relationships. Chapter 7, The Indestructible Bond, Applying the Rule in Relationships. We have arrived at the final boss. The most difficult arena you will ever face. We are leaving the structured world of the workplace and entering the chaotic, emotional, and deeply personal world of your relationships. Do not underestimate the difficulty of this chapter. The principles are the same, but the stakes are infinitely higher. Your history is deeper. Your triggers are more personal. The person standing opposite you knows exactly how to bypass your logic and strike at your most primitive insecurities. This is where your discipline will be tested by fire. Listen closely. Most relationships do not die from a single, catastrophic blow. They die slowly. They bleed out from 1,000 small cuts. 1,000 small, reactive, emotionally hijacked arguments that solve nothing and leave behind a residue of resentment and disconnection. Your most precious bonds are being destroyed by your lack of control. The mechanism of this destruction is what we will call the reactivity loop. It is a simple, predictable, and utterly devastating cycle. It begins when one person, feeling stressed or hurt, fires an emotional spear, an accusation, a criticism, a sarcastic remark. The other person, feeling attacked, is instantly hijacked and fires their own emotional spear back. The first person is triggered again, and they retaliate. Within seconds, you are no longer partners. You are two primitive guards, trapped in a feedback loop of escalating conflict, blindly wounding the person you claim to love. The commander is offline. Logic is gone. All that remains is the loop, spinning faster and faster until the connection is shredded. It's not about who started it, it's about who is disciplined enough to end it. It's not about being right, it's about breaking the cycle. Let's watch this destructive loop play out in a classic scenario. An argument about chores or money. It is the end of a long day. The baseline level of stress is already high. One partner says the trigger sentence. "I feel like I'm the only one who ever cleans this kitchen." The tone is accusatory. It is a spear. The untrained partner is immediately hijacked. Their guard hears the real message: you are lazy. You are not pulling your weight. You are a disappointment. The lie is born. The defensive reaction is instantaneous. They fire back their own spear. "Are you kidding me? I worked a 10-hour day while you were at home." The loop is now fully engaged. The first partner, feeling their own exhaustion invalidated, fires back. "Oh, so my work at home doesn't count?" Now the argument is no longer about the kitchen. It is about respect. It is about appreciation. Old resentments are dredged up. Hurtful things are said. An hour later, silence falls, but nothing has been solved. The cut is just a little deeper. The bond is just a little weaker. Now, let's replay that scene, but with one, single, trained operator. One person committed to the discipline. The trigger is the same. "I feel like I'm the only one who ever cleans this kitchen." The internal jolt of defensiveness is identical. The guard screams the same lies. "But you have trained for this. You are the sky. You deploy the rule. You refuse to fire back. You pause. You breathe. In that 3-second space, you deliberately break the circuit. You choose to let the spear fall harmlessly at your feet. You activate your commander, who understands the truth: your partner is not attacking you. They are expressing their own exhaustion and frustration, poorly. Your job is not to defend your ego. Your job is to hear the real message beneath the words. So, after the pause, you respond with a question designed to de-escalate and understand. Your voice is calm. It sounds like you're feeling completely exhausted and unappreciated. Or, it sounds like you feel the entire burden is on you right now. "Tell me what's going on." This response is a pattern interrupt. It is a shock to the system. Your partner was braced for a counterattack, for a fight. Instead, you have offered understanding. You have turned an adversary into a partner. The fight is over. The reactivity loop is broken. The conversation can now be about the real problem: exhaustion, stress, a feeling of being overwhelmed, instead of a pointless battle of egos. That's the key. You have chosen the relationship over the need to be right. This leads us to the most difficult and most important lesson in this entire audiobook. You cannot control your partner. You cannot force them to be disciplined. You cannot make them read this, listen to this, or practice this. Trying to do so is a fool's game that will only lead to more conflict. Your power lies in one place, and one place only: your own response. You must make a unilateral decision to be the circuit breaker. It only takes one person to stop the loop. This is the ultimate act of leadership in a relationship. One calm response can end the war. This must become your unbreakable law. You will be tempted. Your guard will scream for retaliation. Your ego will demand that you defend yourself. You have a choice. You can satisfy your ego for a fleeting moment and inflict another cut on the bond, or you can swallow your pride and protect the relationship. You cannot do both. You don't need their permission to de-escalate. You don't need them to be calm for you to be calm. Your discipline is yours alone. Your commitment is to the health of the connection, not to winning a pointless, destructive argument. One calm response can end the war. Let this be the principle that guides you through the most challenging moments with the people you love. This is the path to an indestructible bond. You have now learned to apply this discipline in the office and in the home, the two highest stakes arenas of your life. But true mastery is not forged in these rare, high-stakes battles. It is forged in the quiet, mundane moments of your everyday life. It is built through relentless, daily practice. It is time to leave the battlefield and enter the training ground. It is time to learn how to make this discipline as natural as breathing. Our task now is in Chapter 8, Forging the Quiet Discipline. Chapter 8, Forging the Quiet Discipline. You have learned the tactics for the great battles. You have a strategy for the boardroom takedown and a plan for the relationship-defining argument. There is a danger in this. The danger is that you now believe this discipline is a weapon to be kept in its holster, only to be drawn when the stakes are high. This is a catastrophic error in judgment. True mastery is not forged in the fire of a crisis. It is forged in the quiet, monotonous, everyday grind. The great battles are not where your discipline is built, they are where it is revealed. The person who stays calm under immense pressure is not a magician. They are simply a practitioner who has put in thousands of reps when no one was watching. This chapter is about those reps. It is about transforming the 3-second rule from an emergency technique into a fundamental, automatic, and unbreakable part of who you are. We are leaving the battlefield and entering the training ground. And the training ground is your daily life. There is a myth in our culture. The myth of the clutch performer. The athlete who hits the game-winning shot. The surgeon who performs flawlessly in a crisis. The leader who gives the perfect speech in a moment of panic. We believe these people simply rise to the occasion. This is a fantasy. They do not rise to the occasion. They fall back on their training. Their performance in that one critical moment is the direct result of 10,000 boring, repetitive moments of practice. It's not about being a hero, it's about discipline. It's about the relentless accumulation of small, perfect efforts. Your life, right now, is a series of training opportunities you have been wasting. Every minor frustration, every small annoyance, every fleeting impulse is a chance to build the muscle of self-control. And you have been letting every one of them pass you by. You let the small things trigger you, and then you wonder why you can't handle the big things. Today, you begin your real training. Today, you start putting in the reps. Your challenge is this: for the next 24 hours, you will undertake a day of discipline. Your sole purpose is to apply the 3-second rule to every single minor trigger you encounter. The driver on the highway cuts you off. The primitive guard screams with rage. The lie is born: that person disrespected me. You feel the urge to honk, to tailgate, to curse. But you have a choice. You deploy the rule. You pause. You breathe. You respond. By doing nothing. You let them go. You maintain your calm. That is one rep. You are waiting for a website to load, and the connection is slow. A familiar wave of impatience and frustration begins to build. You want to mash the refresh button. You feel agitated. Instead, you pause. You breathe. You respond by waiting in complete stillness. You observe the feeling of impatience without becoming it. That is another rep. You are in line for coffee. The barista gets your order wrong. The lie whispers, they are incompetent. This is an inconvenience. The urge is to be curt, to sigh, to show your annoyance. Instead, you pause. You breathe. You respond with simple, calm, respectful language. Excuse me, I think there was a mistake. I ordered it without sugar. That is a third rep. An anonymous person on the internet leaves a foolish or insulting comment on something you posted. The guard is instantly hijacked. The impulse to fire back a witty, cutting remark is almost overwhelming. But you are a practitioner. You pause. You breathe. You respond by simply deleting the comment and blocking the user. You refuse to let a ghost steal your peace. That is another rep. Do you see the pattern? The content of the trigger is irrelevant. The driver, the website, the coffee, the comment, they are meaningless. They are simply weights in your mental gym. The only thing that matters is the rep, the conscious, deliberate act of inserting a pause between the stimulus and your response. That's the key. Each time you successfully complete a rep, you are physically rewiring your brain. You are strengthening the neural pathway of the commander and weakening the old, worn-out pathway of the guard. It will feel insignificant. Your brain will tell you it's pointless. But discipline is not a feeling. It is a choice. You don't need your own mind's permission to retrain it. Practice on the small things, so you are ready for the big things. This must become your new law. You do not get to decide when a real crisis will strike. You do not get to schedule the day your boss will unfairly criticize you, or the day a true conflict will erupt with your partner. These moments will come for you when you least expect them. You have a choice. You can be unprepared, a victim of your own untrained mind. Or you can be ready, armored, and sharpened by 1,000 small victories over your own impulses. Practice on the small things, so you are ready for the big things. This quiet, unseen discipline is the source of all true strength. It is forged in moments that no one else will ever see or applaud. It is you against you. This is the path. There is no other. As you commit to this daily practice, something profound will begin to happen. In that 3-second pause, you will start to hear a new voice. It will not be the panic scream of the guard. It will be a calm, rational, and strategic voice. It will be the voice that guides you, that reminds you of your principles, that tells you the right move to make. This is the voice of the commander finally taking its rightful place. This is the voice of your own inner coach. Cultivating and commanding that voice is the final stage of your training. That is our work in Chapter 9, The Voice of Reason, Becoming Your Own Coach. Chapter 9, The Voice of Reason, Becoming Your Own Coach. The ultimate purpose of this audiobook is to make itself obsolete. My voice, the one you are hearing right now, is a temporary tool. It is a scaffold. The final stage of this work is to dismantle that scaffold and replace it with a permanent structure inside of you. It is time to internalize the coach. Your mind is not a silent space. It is a constant conversation between two competing voices. For most of your life, you have only been listening to one of them. That is about to change. The daily practice you began in the last chapter created the space. It opened up a 3-second window of quiet. This chapter is about what you must actively put into that space. You are going to learn to cultivate, command, and obey the second voice. The voice of reason. The voice of the commander. The voice of your own internal coach. First, you must understand the two voices that compete for control of your mind. The first is the voice of the guard. It is the voice of the emotional hijack. It is loud, panicked, and hysterical. It speaks in the language of fear, ego, and victimhood. It screams, "This is a disaster. You are being attacked. You have to fight back right now." It is the voice of pure, thoughtless reaction. It has been your default setting for your entire life. The second voice is the voice of the coach. It is the voice of the commander. It is calm, detached, rational, and strategic. It does not scream, it speaks. It does not panic, it analyzes. It does not see attacks, it sees tests. It does not urge reaction, it provides a calculated response. This is the voice of discipline. The 3-second pause is the moment of truth. It is the moment where you, the operator, have a choice. You can listen to the siren of the guard, or you can tune into the quiet, clear broadcast of the coach. Let's watch this choice happen in real time. The public insult. You are in a social or professional setting. Someone, in front of others, makes a direct, personal, and insulting comment to you. It is designed to provoke, to humiliate, to get a reaction. The trigger is pulled. Instantly, both voices speak. The guard screams. Its voice is a tidal wave of hot rage. He cannot disrespect me like that. I have to destroy him. Humiliate him. Put him in his place, right now. The urge to lash out is overwhelming. The chemical flood has begun. This is the path of the amateur. But you have been training. You are a practitioner. You deploy the rule. You pause. You breathe. And in that sacred, 3-second silence, you deliberately mute the guard's chaotic scream, and you listen for the quiet voice of the coach. And the coach speaks. Its voice is low, calm, and tactical. It gives you the script. It says, "This is a test." His goal is to make you look emotional and weak. He wants you to lose control. Do not give him what he wants. The only move that wins this game is to show him his words have zero effect on you. A calm, indifferent, and slightly bored response is the only victory. You have received your orders. The huddle is over. The 3 seconds are up. You look at the person who insulted you, not with anger, but with a kind of detached curiosity. You might give a slight nod, a barely perceptible smile, and then you turn your attention to someone else, as if a fly had just buzzed past your ear. You have just executed a perfect response. You followed the coach's script. You neutralized the attack completely. You demonstrated to everyone watching that you are so in command of your own internal state that no external event can touch you. You won, not by fighting, but by refusing to fight on his terms. Your internal voice determined your external power. That's the key. This is the skill you must now build. It is not enough to just pause. You must use the pause to have a strategic conversation with yourself. It's not about positive self-talk, it's about tactical self-talk. It's not about being nice to yourself, it's about being an effective strategist. You must preload your scripts. You must decide, in moments of calm, what your coach will say to you in moments of chaos. You don't need your feelings' permission to run these new mental programs. You, the operator, are in charge of the code. For moments of intense frustration, your coach's script might be, "This feeling is just noise. It is irrelevant. Focus only on the next required action. What is the next step?" For moments of rising anxiety or fear, your coach's script might be, "Acknowledge the feeling. Do not become the feeling. What is one, small, disciplined move I can make right now to regain control?" For moments of unfair criticism, your coach's script is, "This is just data. It is not a reflection of my worth. Extract any useful information. Discard the emotional packaging. Move forward. You must consciously write these scripts and rehearse them. Practice them during your daily reps. When you are stuck in traffic, hear the coach's voice tell you, this is an opportunity to practice patience. This is a rep. When a colleague annoys you, hear the coach's voice say, this is a test. Logic wins when emotion is absent. Your internal voice determines your external power. This is the final law of self-mastery. The person who is a slave to the internal voice of the guard will always be a slave to their external circumstances. The person who cultivates and obeys the internal voice of the coach becomes the master of their circumstances. When this practice becomes a deep, unbreakable habit, the 3-second rule will no longer feel like a rule. The voice of the coach will no longer feel like a separate entity. It will simply become you. Your default state will be one of calm, deliberate, and strategic thought. This is the pinnacle of this training. And from this high ground of self-mastery, you can begin to see that the rule is not just a defensive tool against life's triggers. It is a proactive philosophy for living. It is a new way to approach every decision, every goal, and every moment of your existence. It is time to expand our vision. It is time to go beyond the rule. That is our final destination, in Chapter 10, Beyond the Rule, A Life of Deliberate Action. Chapter 10, Beyond the Rule, A Life of Deliberate Action. We began this journey with a single, 3-second pause. A tiny sliver of time. We used that pause to expose a fundamental lie, that your first reaction is the truth. It is not. We used that pause to build a shield against the emotional hijack. We used it to weaponize silence, to detach from the internal storm, to forge an unflappable presence at work, and to protect our most precious bonds at home. We used it to build a discipline, rep by rep, in the quiet moments of our daily lives. And we used it to cultivate the voice of an internal coach. But the final purpose of this work was never just to help you handle an insult or win an argument. That was only the training ground. The true purpose was to give you the master tool for designing a life. The 3-second rule is not just a technique for managing triggers. It is the gateway to a life lived with purpose. A life of deliberate, conscious, and powerful action. It is time to go beyond the rule. For your entire life, you have lived on autopilot. You have been a creature of reaction. You react to the news. You react to your boss. You react to your feelings. You have been a leaf in the wind, blown about by external circumstances and internal whims. And you have mistaken this chaos for freedom. The discipline you have learned here, the micro skill of pausing for 3 seconds before you speak, is now ready to be applied on a macro scale. Just as there is a space between a trigger and a response, there is a space between a major life impulse and a life-altering decision. The undisciplined mind collapses that space to zero. The master expands it. It's not about being slow, it's about being deliberate. Let's bring this to the ultimate crossroads. The major life decision. You are in a job that is stable but unfulfilling. One day, a flash of inspiration hits you. An idea for a new business. Or you are living in a city that no longer inspires you, and you have a sudden, powerful urge to move across the country. The emotion is overwhelming. It is a mix of excitement, hope, and the desperate need for change. The untrained mind, the reactive mind, becomes a slave to this emotion. They mistake the intensity of the feeling for the validity of the idea. They go home, and in a fit of passion, they quit their job. They break their lease. They are reacting to a feeling, just as they would react to an insult. They are on autopilot. They are letting the guard, the emotional animal, make a decision that will affect their entire future. Now, watch the master. The master feels the exact same powerful wave of inspiration. The same jolt of excitement. The same desperation for change. But their training takes over. They are the sky, and this feeling is just weather. They acknowledge the impulse. They honor its power. And then, they deliberately create space. This is the 3-second rule applied to a lifetime. The pause is not 3 seconds. It is 3 days. It is 3 weeks. It is 3 months. This is not a period of hesitation or fear. It is a period of active, strategic deliberation. In this space, they consult their internal coach. They move from emotion to logic. They stress test the impulse against reality. The coach asks the hard questions. Is this a strategic move towards a better future, or a desperate escape from a difficult present? What is the step-by-step plan? What are the financial requirements? What is the worst-case scenario, and am I prepared for it? Is this decision based on data, or is it based on a temporary feeling? The decision, when it is finally made, is no longer a gamble. It is not a reaction. It is a calculated response. It has been forged in the quiet space of deliberate thought, free from the intoxicating poison of momentary passion or the paralyzing grip of momentary fear. That's the key. The quality of your life is determined by the quality of the space you create between impulse and action. This is the final lesson. This is the philosophy you will carry forward. Live a life of response, not reaction. A life of reaction is a life of chaos, lived at the mercy of things you cannot control. A life of response is a life of order, lived according to a purpose that you have deliberately chosen. You have a choice. Every single moment of every single day, you can choose to be the pinball, bounced around by the machine. Or you can choose to be the player. You don't need permission from the world to live an intentional life. You don't need permission from your own feelings. You need only the discipline to create the space, to consult the coach, and to act with deliberate purpose. And so, we arrive at the end of this audiobook, but at the true beginning of your work. The scaffold is coming down. The voice of the coach is now yours to command. The tools are in your hands. The knowledge is now complete. But I will tell you one last time what you already know. Knowledge without action is worthless. It is noise. You are standing at a threshold. Behind you is the old you, a slave to every trigger, every impulse, every fleeting emotion. A life of reaction. In front of you is the person you have been training to become, calm, powerful, deliberate. The master of your own mind. The architect of your own life. This is not a story. It is a choice. The discipline is not something you have learned. It is something you must now live. So this is your final command. This is your first test as a graduate of this new discipline. The moment this audio ends, do not simply move on to the next thing. Do not let this moment be forgotten. Instead, stop. Close your eyes. And take one, single, conscious, and deliberate 3-second breath. That is your commitment. That is your first action as the new you. The training is over. Your life as a practitioner starts now. Closing, the final challenge. You have listened. You have understood the logic. But knowledge without action is worthless. It is noise. Right now, you are standing at a threshold. Behind you is a life of chaotic reaction. A life of regret. A life of being a slave to every external event, every careless word, every minor inconvenience. A life where others pull your strings. In front of you is a life of deliberate, calculated power. A life of composure. A life where you decide your response. Where you own the room. Where you are the calm in the storm. This is not a metaphor. It is a choice. The 3-second rule is not something you try. It is something you become. It is the price of admission to the life you want. So this is your first test. The moment this audiobook ends, do not simply move on. Do not just put your headphones down and forget. Instead, stop. Close your eyes. And take one, single, deliberate 3-second breath. That is your first rep, that is your first victory. The training starts now. Pause. Breathe. Respond.